Alright, so here we have the finished dress. So I'm going to just give it a light dusting with the champagne spray paint just because I want it to be a little bit more bold than it is right now. I love the cream, but it's a bit monochromatic, so I'm just going to jazz it up. Alright, so there's my first layer. You can see it's not quite even, which is kind of what I wanted, just to give it a little bit of like antique-y look. And it's also got some darker and lighter spots that kind of shine a little bit now. So we're going to let this dry, and then I'll come back and do the second layer. Alright, so now I have my darker color of spray paint, and I want this area right where the fringe attaches to the lace to be a lot darker, and then I want it to kind of build out from there. So I'm going to start by making a really dark stripe right along here. I pulled the lining out of the way. The lining isn't in here right now just because I don't want to hit it with this. I really want the lining to shone through from the light to the dark. So it's up to you what you want to do if you did do a lining, but that's my decision. Alright, so I'm really liking how that looks, so I'm going to let this side dry, come back and check on it, and see if I need to do any touch-ups. If not, I can just flip it over and do the other side. Alright, so I have given the dress some time to dry, and I've flipped it over. The spray paint has made it a little bit stiff, but that's kind of to be expected with spray paint. So we're just going to take this and do the same thing that we did to the other side. So for the last piece of embellishment, I'm going to do some rhinestoning up on the top. So I am using E6000 glue. It's a really nice industrial bondant that's going to make sure that these gems stick. I've got a nice syringe to help me get the gems on, and a wax pencil to help grab them. So really all you do is just put a little dab of glue where you would like your gem to go, grab it, and stick it. And there you go. So I'm just going to do the whole front. Alright, so I'm going to start the accessory portion of this, and I'm just going to do a simple headband to just kind of jazz it up and give it that 20s feel. So I got some brushed gold spandex sequins, and I got a little fastener that I've owned for years but have never done anything with, so I'm going to just sew that on, and some cream feathers. So it's really simple what I'm going to be doing, but it'll look really cute in the end. So with this fastener, I've decided that I do like the color a lot, but it's also a little bit dull for what I want to do. So I am going to paint it with my metallic paint, just to help it kind of match the colors of the dresses a little bit better. So I just have it set out on my towel here. I'm just going to spray it once. And there we go. We have a nice, beautiful fastener. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'll come back for it. This is the base of the headpiece. What you can do is you can do it one of two ways. I'll show you both. So the way I'm going to do it is you just wrap it around your head and make sure it's the right length. So I'll start at the beginning of my forehead. I'm going to put this closure on the side and hide it so you can't see it. But I just want to make sure that I wrap this around and get the right length. I don't want it to be too tight or else the sequins stretch out and don't look appealing. And I also don't want it to be too loose because I'm going to be fighting it all night that it's going to fall down. So I just want to make sure that I have a really snug length and one that's going to be comfortable on my head and not make me angry and upset throughout the whole night. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of excess room. So I'm going to cut it here. That seems like a good length to me. It doesn't feel too tight, doesn't look too tight, and I will show you how to sew it together. The other way that you can do the headpiece is with a measuring tape, because then you're not going to be tempted to overstretch it. So again, I'm going to do it from the middle of my forehead so you can see where it is, but just take the measuring tape, go around your head, and just end. And Leave yourself a little bit of extra room so you can sew the pieces together. So it looks like for me it would be about 23 inches. So if you're doing this method, just make sure you note the measurement, and then you can take your piece of gold or whatever you're using and match it up with the measurement and see where you're at. For me, it's actually, yeah, it's actually right where I put the pin from my first time around the head. So that's perfect, actually. When I went around my head, I put a little pin right where I wanted to cut it off. So because this is going to be hidden behind a fastener and there's going to be feathers coming out, it's going to be really distracting and you won't even see this joint, I'm just going to do a simple overlay and sew them together that way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this piece off so I have the right length. I can take out that pin now. And then I'm just going to take a cute little hand needle. So I'm just going to take these two pieces, overlap them probably about an inch or so, just like that. And then in this area, I'm going to stitch it down. I'll be using my hand sewing needle to be doing that. I have this thing called Thread Heaven. It is a thread conditioner and protectant. It's really just thread wax. You can buy it anywhere. You can buy regular beeswax. You can get it at Joann's, things like that. They have beeswax blocks and things. But what I love about it is that you can just slide your needle through the wax and it gives it that protective layer that stops it from tangling when you're sewing and makes it a lot easier to sew things by hand because thread likes to tangle and it gets really frustrating. I'm going to pin these two edges together so that I know where I am going to be sewing. So I'm just going to stick a pin in right at the end here, and then I'm going to do another one on the other side so that it's really flat and flush and I don't have to worry about it moving around. The more pins, the more secure. So when in doubt, overpin. So now I'm just going to take my little hand sewing thread and I'm going to start sewing. Alright, so now I've got it pretty secured. It feels like I'm going to take out the pins just to make sure. Alright, so it looks like it's going to hold, which is awesome. Now we're going to make a knot on it. So the easiest knot that I've found is just to loop right back in where you came back out, which once you pull it a little bit through is going to give you this nice big loop. So make it a little bit smaller, and what you want to do with it is you're going to have like this. So just kind of twist it a little into like a figure 8 sort of thing. Mine did it on its own, but just twist it into a figure 8. And then you're going to go through with that top loop with your needle, pull tight, and it will make a nice little perfect knot for you. Mine has a little bit of an extra tail because it's extra twisted, so just make sure it twists once. And there you go, a cute little knot. So now you can trim that off. And before you go any further, make sure it fits because you really don't want to get all the way down the road and have this guy be too big or too small. So I'm just going to throw it on my head. And for me, that actually feels perfect. And so it lays really nicely. So now I'm going to attach the feathers. Now I'm going to attach my two feathers into my headdress. This is going to be another thing with your hand sewing needle, so make sure you have a needle threaded. Where I'm going to attach my feathers is right behind where I attached these guys, so that when I flip it over and attach my fastener, all of the stuff going on around here with the hand sewing of the feathers and the fastener will all be covered up, and I'll end up with a nice clean edge for the rest of this thing. So what I want to do is, I'm actually going to put this headband back on. Alright, so make sure that you have the opening on the side that you want. My intention is my hair is a bit longer on this side, so I want to pull it out over my headband. So I have my fastener on this side so I can have the short hair with the feathers. So what I want to do is I'm just going to stick my feathers in. What I want to do is I just want to figure out placement here. So I'm only going to do one feather. I'm going to shift this up so I can actually see the feathers. but I'm going to do one feather at a time, but I'm going to put both of them in right now so I can just kind of see what they're going to look like together. So that is actually perfect for what I am looking for. I'm actually going to shift them down a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to take out this feather because it's on top, and then this feather right here, I'm just going to hold it in place as best I can to get it off of my head. And I'm going to pull this whole thing off. And it looked like it was just kind of coming straight up off. Alright, so I'm going to put my second feather on now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the front of my head just so I can see it a little bit better. It looks like this one's going to go better behind the first feather so that they don't get tangled up in each other. So I like it just like this, where it can be a little bit off to the side. So I'm going to take it off, hold it in place, and I'm just going to hand sew it like I did before. The second feather is sewn on. You can see it's sewn on right there. And I'm going to once again just trim this shaft a little bit. It ended up a little bit long, but because it's on an angle, that is fine. And I'm just going to try it on one more time to make sure that it is doing exactly what I want. So put this guy on. And beautiful. It looks like it is going exactly where I want it to. So now the last thing to do is going to be to go get that fastener to sew on and give it like a cute little brooch effect. So now I'm going to just sew this guy on to give it a little bit more edge to it. So it has a felt back, so we're just going to do a regular stitch. If you remember back in the first video, this is the sketch of what I wanted my dress to look like. So let's take a look at the finished product. He owns 3 companies. I'll just take that model in my cute little outfit. Which is why we think.
How do you like the comment? Oh, you need my butt? Because I don't get to use that word as much.
I
might have a regular job.
Especially like a butt double, you know?
I know,
and then make sure you get the head piece.
So
overall, I really love how this dress turned out. It had a lot of fun movement from the fringe and sparkle from the gems. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see all of your dresses very soon.